Hi everybody, welcome back to our Thursday Tone Up with Trisha and Lindsay. I hope you're well. I hope you've been following the exercises and you're finding them beneficial because that's the main thing, isn't it? So today we're going to look at core. I'm going to let Lindsay explain to you exactly what that means, but obviously having a strong core, which is the midsection of your body, is incredibly important for a number of reasons, which, as I said, Lindsay is going to tell you. I'm going to be doing the whole exercise session on the floor. So if you're doing this at home, just make sure that you've got room to spread out and you're lying on something comfortable. And I always need a pillow. So, whatever you need in order to be able to do these exercises successfully. So I'll hand over to Lindsay. So she'll tell you what we're going to do and why we're going to do it.
Hi everybody, hope you're all well today. So core, what is it? As Trisha said, yes, the midsection of the body. I think there's quite a lot of misconception around the core and people think of it just as the abdominal muscles, but actually it's more than that. So the core, there's lots of different definitions, but technically it goes from the diaphragm, so around the rib area, down to the pelvic floor. And then it also contains the abdominals at the front and then the back muscles. So if you like, it's a rectangle in the center of your body and all the muscles that are in that area. It's a really important area to work on for lots of reasons. So some of the key ones are, first of all, stability of the spine. So if you can work on the core, you will definitely help to stabilize the spine, create better alignment, etc. With that comes improved posture. And as we know, that's really important for lots of reasons, not least the aesthetic, but also how the whole body functions. Balance is another good reason to do some work on your core. Obviously, we don't want to be tripping and falling and losing our balance. And so if you can strengthen the core, then it will very much help with the balance. And also, actually, with regard to general everyday activity, the core is important in helping your body to function effectively when you're doing all of that daily activity. Similarly, if you do other sports, you might think that they're not linked to core strength and core stability, but actually you can improve your performance in an awful lot of sports by working on your core too. So there's lots of good reasons there. A couple of things that I would say, myths, if you like, around the core. Number one is if you work your core, i.e. your stomach muscles, then you'll get a flat stomach. And that is probably not going to be the case. You can get definition from working your abdominal muscles, in particular the rectus abdominis down the front, i.e. the six pack. However, I would say that if a flat stomach is what you're looking for, then nutrition is absolutely the number one and probably accounts for quite a high percentage of you achieving those results. Something like 70 or 80%, I would say, is down to good nutrition, and only a small percentage down to work in the core. So if you're hoping to do some of these exercises and come out with a completely flat stomach without working on anything else at the same time, then you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed. And the other thing that I would say is that there's a link, traditionally there's been a link between back pain and a weak core, and increasingly research is proving that that is not necessarily the case. So don't just assume that if you've got a bad back that your core is weak, because it might actually not be. Okay, so we're going to do a warm-up. Trisha's back is a bit challenging today, so it's, if you've got bad backs, we definitely need to spend some time just mobilising that area before we do any work on it. So we'll do that first, and then I want to focus primarily on this session, on abdominal muscles, of which I'll focus on 3 different ones, and also then the back muscles as well. So I'm not covering every single muscle of the core, but we will look at abdominals and the back muscles. Okay, so let's just start with our mobility exercises just to get them back warmed up. So Trisha, you are just going to start off with a pelvic tilt. So you literally, with this one, you think about tucking your pelvis under, so your lower back goes flat on the mat, and then releasing it off and tipping it the other way so that you feel the lower back come away from the mat. Again, this is a small movement. I don't know if you move your arms out of the way, Tricia, whether we can just see that a little bit better. So you can see that that's the isolation of the pelvis that Tricia's working on. So she's tilting her bottom under, and that's when the lower back goes flat. And then she tilts it back the other way and you'll feel the lower back go away from the mat. Good. That's it. Perfect. Lovely. So what you should feel as you do this, you might feel a little stretch in the lower back, but you should feel your back also easing out and just giving you a little bit more mobility as you do the repetitions. Good. So let's just hold it back in the center, Tricia, and then we're going to now drop the knees over from one side to the other. So this is just, that's it. So nice and gentle. So with this movement, the shoulders stay down and the knees drop over. So again, we're just trying to release that whole area, ready to do some work. Does your back feel okay with that, Tricia?
Yeah, it's all fine.
Perfect. Good. So I suppose about 8 to 10 of these either side. They're good things to do anyway, so you can't really do too many. It should feel quite nice in the back, so enjoy this bit of warming up. Good, perfect. And then if you take a hold behind one thigh, I'm just going to gently pull that thigh into your chest. So pull it in gently and release it off. Pull it in and release it off. Good. That's it, perfect. And then put that one down and let's take a hold of the other one. So it doesn't matter if your bottom lifts slightly as you draw the thigh in towards your chest. In fact, it's quite helpful because you just get a little bit of extra length into the lower part of the back. Lovely. Good. Okay, perfect. So I want to talk about two things just before we start the exercises. One is breathing and the other is the position of the pelvis as we're working through the exercises. So we talked about breathing before. So we're thinking full and wide into the rib cage, the tummy will expand. And then you want to think about breathing out and drawing the tummy down. Now, as we go through this series of exercises, what you definitely don't want is to hold your tummy in so tight that you can't breathe at the same time. So if you draw it in as tight as you can, and you imagine that's 100%, you want to have around about 30% contraction from that out breath so that you can gently hold your tummy in, but you can still breathe as normal over the top. That's probably quite a strange idea if you've not done it before, so it takes a little bit of practice. But you should be able to gently hold the tummy in as you continue to breathe as normal. And that just gives a bit of extra stability around that whole core area. The second thing is the position of the pelvis. So if you imagine your hip bones and your pubic bone, you've got a sort of triangle between those two hip bones and your pubic bone. Now that exercise that we just did, the mobility exercise where we tip the pelvis, if you imagine you have a tray sitting on your two hip bones, a triangular tray, so it's across the hip bones and it's down to the pubic bone. If you've got a tray of whatever you love to drink, so it could be champagne, could be a cup of tea, whatever. If you tilt your pelvis such that your back goes flat on the mat, then all of the lovely things you're carrying are going to slide down towards your tummy. Similarly, if you allow your lower back to arch and your pelvis tips down the other way, then all of the things that you're carrying on your tray are going to slip down between your legs. So neither of those things we want to happen. So what you want to focus on as we're going through the exercises is keeping that tray nice and flat. So that is known as a neutral spine position. If you've ever heard anybody talk about that, the neutral spine. So it's positioning the spine in its natural way. There's a natural curve in the lower back, and that's what we want to work with as we go through. Perfect. Okay, so the first exercise that we're going to do is working just with the legs, and I'm going to start with an easier version, and then I'll give you a second option which will be slightly harder. So I want you to take the breath in and just draw down to that 30% contraction, Tricia, keeping that pelvis nice and stable. Some people like to hold around their hip bone area just to feel whether the pelvis is tipping or not. That's a personal choice. And from there, you're going to lift one knee into your body. That's it. So you're lifting it not too far in. You want your knee directly above your hip. So it'll be, yeah. And your foot level with your knee itself. So you've got a 90-degree angle at the knee. So if you can just lift your foot up on the left a little bit, Tricia. Yeah, there. So that's where we're going, a 90-degree angle at the knee. And then place it down again. And then we're going to the other side. So breathing in and breathing out to draw that leg in. Lovely. And then place it down. So if you've not done any of these kind of exercises before, you need to really think about keeping your pelvic area nice and stable. So if you keep moving, Tricia, that's it. So nice and controlled. Imagine there's a string between your tummy and the center of your thigh, and it's the tummy that is drawing the leg in towards the body. That's it. And if you really focus on holding that pelvis in the right position, then even this, which is a relatively straightforward exercise, you should be able to feel something happening in your abdominal area. Can you feel anything, Tricia?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So if that is enough for you, then that's the one to go with. If you want a little bit more, then we can progress it by actually working from the legs up in the air. So if you can come into what we call a tabletop position, Tricia, so similar to what we've just been doing, one leg at a time, making sure you've got the tummy lightly drawn in. So whatever movement you make with your legs, the pelvis does not move with it. So if you come into tabletop one leg at a time, Tricia. So that's known as a tabletop position. And we can move from there. So still focusing on keeping the pelvis still, you're going to tap your foot down to the floor, keeping control, and then return, and then the other side. So because we've added a bit of extra weight and a lever here, what will want to happen is your pelvis will tip and your lower back will lift. So that is what we want to stop happening. We want to use the tummy to stabilize the whole area as you allow the legs to move. Does that feel harder in your tummy than the other one, Tricia?
Yes, slightly. It's not too bad.
It should feel more challenging than the first one that we did with your feet on the floor.
Yeah, definitely more challenging.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so just do one more each side. Perfect. And then just have a little rest for a minute. So what we're going to do next is to add some arms into that movement. So this is progressing the level of difficulty. So if you can take your breath, draw the tummy down to that 30% contraction and come back in so that you've got your legs at tabletop, making sure that the knees are directly above the hips and not too close to your chest. And if you get them directly above the hips, the tummy will have to work quite hard to hold them there. So if you take your hands above your chest, So this is the most difficult one of this section that we'll do. So please only do this one if you can control the movement through the pelvis. So what we're going to do, we're going to tap down just the same with one foot, but we take the opposite arm over the head. So you tap down and then come back into the center. Good. So in breath to go over, out breath to draw the leg and the arm back into the center. So all the while, there's no movement through the pelvis. How does that one feel compared to the other two?
Yeah, it feels like my stomach's having to work a lot harder.
So if you were to let your tummy go and to let the pelvis go, you wouldn't feel the tummy working in the same way. So it's really important to stabilize through the center and then allow the arms and the legs to move. So I don't want to do too many of these, Tricia, just in case your back starts to hurt. So let's just relax it there. Draw the knees into the chest and just ease your back out. So just a gentle rock, hands behind the thighs. Just rock back in, forward and back. Good, perfect. So that exercise worked the transverse abdominis muscle, which is the one that runs around in a circle around your waist. The next one that we're going to do is going to work the rectus abdominis, and that one is your six pack. So if you can take the cushion away for me, please. It's quite thick, that cushion, and it definitely affects the alignment of the neck. So I'm always a bit cautious about how many cushions and how thick to have them. I know they're cozy, but just need to take care with the neck. So put your hands behind your head for me, please, Tricia. So we're going to take a breath in. So exactly the same idea with your pelvis. On the out breath, you're going to lift up. So you're curling up, looking between your thighs as you do. So out breath to lift the head and shoulders off the floor. Slide the ribs down towards the pelvis. Good. And then all the way back down. So what we're not doing here is tilting up the pelvis. So we're not having all of the things we carry in our tray shooting towards your tummy as you curl up. The pelvis stays still and it's just the upper part, the head and shoulders that move. So it's out breath on the lift. Drawing the tummy down, you should be able to see your tummy deflate as you lift. Try not to pull on your neck. Think about having the head heavy in the hands. Good. Perfect. So with this one, you should feel it in the top part of your tummy. Now just hold it there a second, Tricia, because I'm going to give a second option, which will increase the level of difficulty. You okay so far?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So let's knee fold back in. So drawing that tummy down before you move, keeping the pelvis stable, and then have the hands behind your head again. If you just move the knees just a bit further out, then they're directly over your hip. Yeah, and lift the feet for me. There you go. Yeah, that's exactly the perfect position. So take a breath in and then the same movement, out breath to curl up. Lovely. So think about, and then release. So keep that going. So out breath to curl up. That's it, in breath as you go down. So you think about sliding the ribs down toward your pelvis. The lower body is completely stable. And the tummy's having to work really hard because you've got to keep your legs in that position as well as curling up at the same time. Good. So just a couple more. Brilliant. Excellent. And rest. So again, choose the option that is right for you. If you've not done these before, my recommendation would be to keep the feet on the floor until you're able to control what's going on with your tummy and your pelvis, and then you can add the level of difficulty later. Good. Perfect. So now I want to have a look at the waist. So we've got muscles in the waist that are called the obliques, and you've got two sets. One's internal obliques and the other is external obliques, and they cross over each other, and they're responsible for twisting through the trunk. So any kind of twisting, rotation, movement, that is the obliques doing the work. So we're going to work them. I'll do 2 levels of difficulty again. So if you put your hands behind your head, Tricia, please. We're going to start with the feet down as we always do. Set yourself up with a breath and the 30% engagement. And then when you've got that, take another breath in. And on the out breath, this time you're going to lift and twist. So you think in front of the shoulder, twisting toward your opposite thigh. Beautiful. Good. And then come back down. So we'll stay with the same side, lift and twist. Good. And then come back through. So what you'll notice that Trisha's doing here is she's thinking about the front of the shoulder and getting a lift and a twist. What she's not doing is just moving the elbow. So it's quite easy to bring your elbow in and out and you're not moving through your torso at all. That's it, yeah. So what we want is that lift and twist, and that's where the work in the waist is going to come from. So let's just do one more on this side, Trisha. Perfect, that looks really nice. And then relax. So we'll do the other side, but I'm going to show you the more advanced version on the other side, and then you can choose the one that's right for you. So we need to come into that tabletop position again, please. So set yourself up, stabilize the center, and then knees are directly above the hips. Tummy stays drawn in 30%. So you take a breath in, and this time, other side, exactly the same movement, lift and twist, that's it. So you look towards your opposite thigh and then return. Brilliant. So think about always the muscle that you're working. So think about the waist lifting you and twisting you over. And everything else is staying quite still. And don't forget, you're always breathing out on the exertion. So as you lift, you'll breathe and you'll try and deflate your tummy. That's it. 3 more if you can. Good. Last one. Perfect. Lovely. Have a little rest. All right. So let's set ourselves up in a good position. So we want our knees directly underneath our hips, and we want our hands directly underneath our shoulders. Can you take your hands just a little bit further out towards the cupboard, Trisha? Yeah, there we go. Lovely. And what we're looking for here is that nice neutral position of the spine, as I called it before. So you want to make sure that the upper back is not too rounded, so you're nice and flat across the shoulder blades. And you want to make sure that you've got that natural curve in your lower spine. Perfect. So we can do exactly the same idea with regard to the breathing and the drawing the tummy, only this time you'll be drawing it up towards the ceiling rather than down towards the floor as you were before. So your first job is to take the breath and to get that 30% contraction, just to draw the tummy up towards the back. So it's not really, really drawn in and tight and tense. It's just gently drawn in. Good. Now, we're going to use the same principle as we've used with some of the other exercises. We're going to add movement into the arms and the legs. So let's start with the arms first, actually. So keeping everything completely stable, you're going to reach out over your head with one arm without allowing your back to move at all. So straight arm. Good. And release. And go to the other side. Good. And release. Now it will depend, so keep going with that one, alternate sides. Everything else stays completely stable. So just like we had the image of a nice tray of something on your pelvis, this time we've got it on our back, and you want to keep that tray totally stable as you move. Good, okay. So for some people, just moving the arms will really work the tummy. So let's try our legs now on their own, Tricia. So it's one leg going out to the back, level with your bottom. Yeah, a bit higher if you can. There you go. And then back in. And then the other side. So all the way through and return. So keep going alternate ones. All the way through this, you're thinking about nice, flat, as in neutral position back. So you try not to twist and move around through the back. You want to keep that tray with all the contents intact. That's it, good. So that looks really nice. So if you're new to this, my suggestion would be to stick to arms and legs separately. But to progress it on, what we're going to do now is we're going to move one arm and one leg at the same time. So it'll be opposite arm to leg to move out together. That's it. And return. So this is where it starts to become more difficult. So can you feel yourself wanting to wobble, Tricia? Yeah. Good. And return. Sometimes it's quite fun to actually put, I don't know, a cushion or something that is quite light. A ball's a bit mean, but something that if you move too much, it will actually fall off. Obviously, something that's not breakable, so that you can really get a sense of whether you're moving around in your back or not. So you're trying to get as much length between the toes and the fingertips as you can. And you're trying to keep one line between your fingertips and your toes. Good, so you can see that Tricia's just wobbling, which is where the tummy's trying to stabilize. That's it. Good, perfect. I'm going to give you two options for your back. One of them we've done before, but I want to refresh you, and then I'll give you a new exercise if you want a little bit more. That's it. So if you can just move that down a bit. Yeah, that's perfect. So Tricia, put one hand on top of the other and put your forehead on your fingers. That's it. So this is called a diamond press. We did this, I think, actually last week when we were looking at rounded upper backs. So with this one, you take the breath, you still draw the tummy lightly out, that 30%, so you're drawing it away from the floor, and then you'll take a breath in, and on the out breath, you push your hands and your arms into the floor, and you lift your head and shoulders, keeping the chin nodded. Beautiful, good. And then release. So what we're working here is the main muscle down the back. Lift and lengthen. And release. Lift and lengthen and release. Perfect. Good. So it shouldn't take too many repetitions of these to be able to feel it down the center of the back, because it's not an area that gets worked very often. Beautiful. Can you feel that working, Tricia?
Yeah.
Good.
Feeling that when I started working with you, I couldn't do that at all.
No.
I just couldn't lift my head was felt too heavy, and I just didn't have the muscle control or the capacity to actually lift the upper part of my body without.
Yeah, so it's brilliant that you can really notice the difference there, and obviously that's down to strengthening your back and also mobility in that area as well. Good. So I'm going to, if people find that one easy, I want to progress it into what's called a dart. So you can use your pillow here for your forehead. Okay, so you've got your toes together and your heels drop apart to start off with. So this is a similar movement to the last exercise, but we haven't got the help of our hands and our arms on the floor to get the lift through the back. So it's much harder in that respect. So we're going to take a breath in, as always. On the out breath, you're going to squeeze your heels together, rotate your palms so they're at the side of your thigh, and lift your head and your shoulders. And then return down and let everything fall away again. That's it, good. So we stay looking down at the floor the whole time. So breathing in and breathing out to lift. Lift and lengthen, good. Chin stays nodded. And then release down. And lift. So it's much, much harder as an exercise because we're relying on the muscle itself here to lift the head and shoulders off the floor. Good. So let's just go 2 more. Lovely. Good. Brilliant. That's fantastic. Well done. So do you want to just come on to all fours into a box position? How did that feel?
Yeah, it's fine.
Good. Right, let's just mobilize the spine just to finish then. So let's do a cat. So you're going to tuck your bottom under, rounding through the back, and then drop the head and then work through in the opposite direction. So this is just really about mobilizing the back before we finish. That's it. Good. And then tuck the pelvis under, lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. And then scoop through. Beautiful. Just one more of these. Lift and lengthen. And then scoop. Perfect. Brilliant. Just going to do a couple of stretches. So you're going to take a breath in, and on the out breath, you're going over the top. So you're thinking about pushing the hip down into the floor, and then the arm lifts over the head and reaches away.
Like that?
Yeah, just one side at a time though. So one hand on the floor, breathing in and then over. That's it. So just think length. So we're stretching out the waist. When we work the oblique muscles, we're just trying to stretch out the waist. That's it. And then you can do the same thing the other side, breathing in, lifting out of the hip and over on the out breath. Good. And then you're going to sit nice and tall, take a breath in, and on the out breath, rotate. So you can put one hand on the opposite thigh and just rotate around. That's it. And then the other way. Perfect. Come back to the center, circle off your shoulders. Good. And then you're just going to clasp your hands to the front, take a breath in and push them away, chin on the chest, separate your shoulder blades, stretch the upper back. That's it. Lovely. Perfect. Brilliant. So there you are. You've got a core that's been worked, or at least some of the core that's been worked.
Absolutely. So thank you very much indeed, Lindsay. That was brilliant, and hope everybody that's been watching it and following it really found that helpful, and that if you practice those exercises regularly, then you'll have a nice strong core, and who doesn't want a nice strong core? So bye bye everybody, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye.